Well, I think you got to look at the imperial data associated with what works. Now, you got to remember, this is a Republican that's talking. I testified to a committee, and I referred to the New Deal, and they were kind of shocked that I said that. But and I'm a historian, so I apologize in advance for that. But if you look at some of the things that Franklin Delano Roosevelt did, what he did, he took that empirical data on certain things that worked and certain things that didn't. And a lot had to do with people that were out of work. You actually had deflation as opposed to inflation. And if you looked at the New Deal, and a lot of the policies I didn't like, but the one thing I did like was that instead of having gridlock government, you actually established a program, tried it. If it didn't work, you abandoned it, and right away kept going forward. I think, at least talking to people on the street, they're so frustrated, and they think that most politicians can't do anything because they're too busy arguing instead of trying policies based upon empirical and scientific data on how to get the economy rolling. The housing market, I think, in California was greatly inflated. It's been like that for years. Some of the forecast had predicted that it was going to collapse. I don't think anyone predicted it was going to be that rapid. And I think you have to have, and based on what happened, the federal agencies, Fannie Mae and some of the other ones, and all the loans, it was broken. It did not work the way it was supposed to. And people did not understand this, how the economy was working. And they got caught in this. And people lost their homes. They couldn't understand it. They were over-mortgaged. The banks were involved. And I think you've got to go back. And instead of over-regulating, I think you've got to actually pass meaningful legislation, hopefully bipartisan legislation, that to make sure we don't do it again. Because right now, it just seems like we're doing Band-Aids and bailing wire, and I don't know if we've ever solved that. And this recession, which I think should have ended a couple of years ago, just stays and stays and stays. Well, I got to tell you, I supported the stimulus package when it first came out. I was concerned. I didn't know it was going to cost that much, but the transportation jobs that were created obviously helped in the short-term basis. I think we've got to recognize the fact that we've got to take care of the people here in San Bernardino before we take care of China. And this sounds almost parochial. I don't mean to sound that way, but we've got to take care of the people that we represent first and foremost. So all these jobs that are going to China and India and elsewhere, I think we got to review a lot of that policy there. I think we need incentives. We need incentives for people, and I'll give you an example. We had a tax credit. Ironically enough, I have a bill which is probably going to die about a tax credit for small businesses. They actually passed this in the 2009 budget. And basically what it did, if you're a small business, which was under 20 employees, you get a tax credit. It wasn't much, it was $3,000. You have to have, I think, more and more tax credits for small businesses. And small, I want to ante that or ratchet it up, not just 20, but all the way up to 50, because you need to have a little bit of infrastructure for all the accounting and all the regulations that we pass in Sacramento, so that they can figure out how to compete, have that incentive, and that they would reinvest in our county, in our country, as opposed to going to Texas and what have you. We need more and more incentives in this area. I think we've got to be, we almost have to copy some of the other states, and I'm not afraid of copying some of the things that Texas has done. I don't think they're perfect, but there's should be no pride of authorship. So you can say, I did this. The job is to get people back to work. And going back to that analogy I made about the Roosevelt administration, hey, you send it up the flagpole. If it works, you enact that program. If it doesn't, you start all over. You don't spend a lot of billions and billions of dollars on it. You keep going.